Discover the miraculous teachings of Matthew, 12 divine truths to transform your faith journey. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, the land was heavy with the oppression of foreign rule and the weight of religious expectations. The sun broke over the rolling hills near the Sea of Galilee, casting shimmering rays upon Peter's weathered hands as he rowed his boat across the tranquil waters. Beside him, his companions James and John shared their fervent conversations, voices carrying tales of burdensome Roman taxes and the oppressive laws enforced by the Pharisees. Each wave that splashed against the wooden hull seemed to whisper their collective weariness. At a distance, Matthew, a tax collector whose heart often felt the sting of isolation, remained hidden in the shadows of the hills. His eyes traced the fishermen, longing to connect yet fearing the judgment that could come from his past choices. A divinely orchestrated moment was approaching, one that would stir their souls and challenge their deepest convictions. As Peter and the others approached the foot of the mountain, a hush swept over the gathering crowd. The air thickened with anticipation, love, and longing. There, stepping into the sunlight, was Jesus of Nazareth. Whispers filled the air. Could this be the one who healed the sick, who spoke with authority? His presence commanded respect while inviting the hearts of the weary to draw near. "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men," he declared, a divine summons reverberating through the thrumming hearts of the listeners. His gaze pierced their souls, seeing not just their struggles but their hopes for a better way. "Blessed are the poor in spirit," he began with a voice that resonated like a clarion call. Peter's heart fluttered as he contemplated his life filled with toil but lacking fulfillment. Alongside him, Matthew felt the walls of isolation close in as the teachings unfolded like the rich textures of tapestry, revealing a beauty he had never known. This was not merely a call to follow, it was a radical invitation to embrace a countercultural faith grounded in love, compassion, and justice. "Blessed are those who mourn," Jesus spoke, each phrase digging deeper into their hearts, a challenge that shifted their understanding of blessedness. The tension escalated as he called them to love their enemies and pray for those who persecute them. Peter's brow furrowed with doubt. Could he truly embrace this radical love? Would Matthew associated with their oppressors ever be welcomed into this divine tapestry of grace? Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. As Jesus continued, the mountain resonated with teachings that seemed to defy logic, treasures stored in heaven, sincere prayer, and a righteousness that surpassed the mere legalism of their time. Each word pierced through the veil of despair, revealing a purpose rooted in faith and divine intervention. With every beatitude shared, hearts began to stir, hopes renewed in the light of his truth. As evening fell over Galilee, Jesus moved among the crowd, healing the sick and restoring the broken. The authority with which he ministered left the listeners breathless. Matthew watched in awe, a warm fire igniting within him, eager to grasp this higher calling. Yet questions loomed within the shadows of his past, contrasting sharply against the luminous promise of community. What awaited them in the coming days as they embraced his teachings? The sun dipped below the horizon, the journey ahead fraught with trials, yet a mysterious hope lingered in the air, a divine beckoning to step into purpose, awaiting their courageous response. The following day dawned bright and clear, and the sun hung low over the land as Jesus continued his ministry. A multitude gathered again, drawn by the whisper of his name and the miracles he had performed. They assembled on a grassy slope, eager, hungry for truth, for healing, and for the presence of the Holy One. As Jesus took his place among them, a cowed silence enveloped the crowd. It was Matthew who found himself captivated by the multitude. The fierce hope in their eyes reflected his own longing for redemption. Jesus began to teach once more, imparting wisdom that seemed to illuminate the darkest corners of their hearts. "Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness," he urged, "and all these things shall be added to you." Those words echoed in the hearts of all present, truth resonating within their very souls. Peter leaned forward, every word stirring in him a fresh conviction. "What shall we seek first, Master, if not our basic needs?" he pondered. Yet the conviction of love and grace, manifest in Jesus, began to redefine their understanding of provision. "Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about its own things," Jesus continued, his voice gentle yet unyielding, like a shepherd guiding his flock. "Consider the lilies of the field and how they grow, they do not toil or spin. Yet I say to you that even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these." Matthew listened intently, gripped by the profound nature of Jesus's words. The lilies, once just petals in a field, now appeared as symbols of God's provision. Faith began to swell in his heart. Could he truly accept that grace was extended even to him? The tax collector who once sought riches now yearned for the surpassing wealth of the kingdom. Suddenly, a commotion surged through the crowd, a woman pressed forward, desperate and trembling. It was known that she had suffered from a flow of blood for 12 long years, her plight rendering her an outcast. The faith of the woman, a flicker cast in a sea of despair, bridged the gap between hope and healing. She could not help it, she whispered, "If only I may touch his garment, I shall be made well." As she reached out, her trembling fingers brushed the hem of his robe. In that moment, the power of the Lord surged from him, infusing her with healing. "Who touched me?" Jesus asked, his eyes scanning the crowd. Peter, awestruck, replied, "Master, the multitudes throng and press you, and you say, 'Who touched me?'" But Jesus knew, somebody touched me, for I perceived power going out from me. The woman, fearing and trembling, fell down before him, declaring in the presence of all the people what had happened. "Daughter," he said, "be of good cheer, your faith has made you well. Go in peace." The crowd erupted with awe, a palpable breath of collective astonishment and joy rippling through their hearts. But beneath the surface of those miraculous moments lingered the weight of their own doubts. A question now loomed heavy upon Matthew: if such grace could set the woman free, could it also encompass someone as despised as he? Jesus then turned to the onlookers and spoke with authority, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden." While the crowd reflected on this profound truth, Matthew felt the urgency in Jesus' words beckoning him to more than just observation. He was called to action. Understanding began to unfold like a flower blooming in the midst of winter, revealing that within the divine plan of grace, no heart was beyond redemption. As the day waned, a flicker of resolve ignited in Matthew's soul. Could he truly leave everything behind to follow the one who offered such boundless love? And as the shadows of twilight deepened, Jesus gazed out at the crowd and proclaimed, "For the Son of Man has come to seek and to save that which was lost." The weight of those words hung thick in the air, whispering to each soul present, beckoning them to realize that the story of redemption was unfolding in their very lives. What would it mean to follow him? Would the call extend to Matthew's heart? As the sun dipped below the horizon, the mystery of grace shimmered in the dusk, a divine invitation, waiting to be embraced, beneath the cosmic orchestration of a sovereign plan yet to be fully revealed. As the sun sank deeper into the horizon, painting the sky with hues of amber and crimson, the multitude remained, enraptured still by Jesus' words. They were restless, yet filled with a sacred anticipation. What new wonders would the Master reveal? Jesus, perceiving their yearning, began speaking again. "Truly, I say to you, the kingdom of God is like a treasure hidden in a field. When a man found it, he hid it again, and in his joy went and sold all that he had to buy that field." The implications of this parable bore profound significance. Matthew's heart quickened. There was urgency in the purchase of grace, a call to willingly forsake the shackles of earthly attachments for the uncountable riches of heaven. And again, Jesus continued, "The kingdom of heaven is like a merchant seeking beautiful pearls. When he had found one pearl of great price, he went and sold all that he had and bought it." In those precious moments, Matthew felt the story grafting itself into the marrow of his being. How could he hold on to the riches of the world when the pearl of great price beckoned? His past life as a tax collector seemed trivial before the weight of such divine treasures. As murmurs of understanding rippled through the crowd, a ruler emerged from the throng, a man of great standing who fell at the feet of Jesus, pleading, "My daughter has just died, but come and lay your hand on her, and she will live." The faith of the ruler pierced the air with a suffocating silence, filling the hearts of many with a mix of skepticism and hope. Jesus answered without hesitation, "Go, your faith has made you well." The ruler stood, his eyes reflecting both despair and determination. As they began to move toward his house, a messenger approached, whispering urgent tidings of grief. "Your daughter is dead," he announced, his words heavy with finality. The air thickened with sorrow, yet Jesus turned to the ruler and spoke gently, "Do not be afraid, only believe, and she will be made well." What faith and what fear captured that moment! Matthew's heart wrestled, for here was a juxtaposition of death and life, the external struggle echoing an internal conflict within him. Could he trust in such a promise? Could he abandon his doubt and step into faith? And while they journeyed, the crowd pressed close, filling the space like a swell of waves by the shore. Suddenly, from the depths of the throng, a voice lifted, familiar and trembling. It was the woman who had touched his hem. "If only I may touch his garment," she repeated to herself, pushing through the throng, desperation fueling her steps once again. With outstretched fingers, she brushed the edge of his robe one more time. "Your faith has made you well," Jesus pronounced, turning to her with compassion illuminating his eyes. "Go in peace." The crowd broke into exclamations of astonished praise, yet Matthew stood still, absorbing the profound truth unfolding before him, each miracle a testament to the unwavering faith that bore fruit. In that divine moment of revelation, as the sun's last rays surrendered to twilight, Matthew understood the depths of his calling. The invitation to follow Jesus appeared to him not simply as a choice but a beckoning to partake in the miraculous journey of faith himself. As Jesus approached the ruler's house, a cacophony of sorrow swelled in the air. "Why make this commotion?" he questioned. "The girl is not dead but sleeping." The mockery and disbelief that met his words sent disquiet through the hearts of those present, yet it was the voice of the one who spoke life into existence. With a mere word, he sent the mourners away, taking only Peter, James, and John, along with the girl's parents. He entered the room, the atmosphere thick with the weight of grief. "Talitha, cumi," he commanded softly, raising a girl from the clutches of death. Her eyes fluttered open, life flooding back to her veins. Witnessing such astounding miracles, Matthew's latent faith ignited into a fervent flame. Here was the essence of God's sovereign plan, illuminating the path for all hearts longing for redemption. For in every miracle, in every teaching, lay an invitation not just for Matthew but for every soul drawn to the light, to peer beyond the veil of visible circumstances and grasp the truth that God's love seeks the lost, uplift the broken, and breathes resurrection where there is despair. Yet, as the night cloaked the earth, a question hung in the air, echoing in the hearts of all. What greater purpose did these miracles serve in the unfolding tapestry of God's eternal plan? The story was only beginning, and the horizon shimmered with a promise yet to be revealed. As the dawn broke, casting light over the hills, Jesus withdrew to a quiet place, his heart heavy with the burden of countless souls. The disciples, though weary from the night's events, followed him, sensing the warmth of his presence even in the solitude. They gathered around him, longing for instruction, their own faith yet trembling in the wake of extraordinary happenings. "Who do men say that I am?" Jesus asked, his eyes sweeping over the eager faces. The question hung in the air, profound and weighty, and after a moment, Peter spoke up, his voice bold with conviction. "Some say John the Baptist, some say Elijah, and others, one of the prophets." Unveiling their diverse opinions, he waited, sensing deeper truths concealed beneath the surface. "But you," Jesus pressed, "who do you say that I am?" Peter looked deeply into the eyes of Jesus, a revelation stirring within him. With the certainty of the Spirit, he declared, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." Blessed is Simon, for flesh and blood had not revealed this to him, but the Father in heaven. "And I say to you that you are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades shall not prevail against it," Jesus proclaimed, the words echoing with divine authority. In this moment, the foundations of the kingdom were laid, and Matthew felt a tremor of awe rise within him. In the days that followed, Jesus traveled through towns and villages, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom. Unable to contain their exhilaration, the crowds thronged around him, each weary soul hoping for healing or a word of life. As he healed the sick and cast out demons, Jesus revealed not only his power but also the tender heart of the Father to a world longing for hope. One day, seated by the shores of the Sea of Galilee, Jesus taught in parables once more. A farmer went out to sow his seed. He began, describing the diverse conditions of the soil, the wayward hearts of men responding to the word in varied fashions. The disciples listened intently, longing to decode the mysteries of the kingdom. "Blessed are the pure in heart," he continued, "for they shall see God." The beauty of his teaching washed over them, yet Matthew knew that understanding and obedience would demand much more than admiration. They must embody the truths that transformed their hearts and lives. Afterward, as the crowd dispersed like scattered grains, an anxious voice rose among the remaining throng. A father rushed forward, his child writhing in agony at home, afflicted by a spirit that tormented him. "Lord, I believe. Help my unbelief," he cried, grasping the hem of Jesus' garment, echoing his heartfelt plea for healing. Jesus looked upon him with compassion. "All things are possible to him who believes," he assured, instructing the father, "Bring him to me." The possessive spirit would soon be vanquished, a powerful reminder that faith could conquer even the darkest of oppressors, igniting hope in the deepest recesses of despair. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows that danced across the fields, Jesus turned his gaze to his disciples. "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden." Each word fell like a divine call, stirring within Matthew a longing to shine brightly amidst a world ensnared in darkness, and so, as the evening enveloped them in its embrace, the gravity of Jesus' mission weighed heavily on their hearts. They sat together, reflecting on the magnitude of his announcement, on the name above all names that had been whispered to them. Here, nestled within the promises of the kingdom, lay the essence of hope and transformation, yet the question lingered, an echo filling the air: how would they embrace their calling to be the light? The mysteries of his plan seemed vast, and amidst the unfolding narrative of their journey with Christ, the promise of more miracles, more teachings still awaited discovery. Little did they know, the greatest revelations were yet to come, weaving together a divine tapestry that would alter the very course of history. As the darkness deepened, a certain stillness enveloped the night, though the hearts of the disciples were stirred by the words of their teacher. That very evening, after the sun had dipped below the horizon, the disciples gathered together in quiet anticipation, pondering the significance of his recent proclamations. The weight of Jesus' declaration lingered, each word resonating within them like a melodic refrain. "Master," Thomas ventured cautiously, "what is the path that lies before us? How shall we follow you in this ministry that is so great?" His voice trembled slightly, unveiling the raw uncertainty nestled in the hearts of many. The others nodded, concern etched across their features. Jesus, understanding their quest for assurance, turned his gaze skyward, as if seeking the very counsel of the Father. "Fear not, for I am with you, even to the end of the age," he spoke gently, wrapping them in the promise of divine accompaniment. "You will be my witnesses in Jerusalem, in all Judea and Samaria, and to the ends of the earth." With renewed courage, the disciples listened as Jesus began imparting broader truths in the glowing embers of the fading light. "The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field. When a man found it, he hid it again, and then in his joy went and sold all he had and bought that field," he taught. A moment passed, and he added, "Or like a merchant looking for fine pearls, when he found one of great value, he went away and sold everything he had and bought it." Matthew remained entranced by the allegories, recognizing that each story held layers of meaning concerning the pursuit of spiritual wealth. In his own heart, he grappled with the notion of relinquishing the familiar for the incredible. What might that truly entail? Soon, a murmur among the disciples grew to a fervent discussion about the cost of discipleship. "Yet, Lord," James questioned, "how shall we endure tribulation and persecution as we take this light into the world?" The concern reflected the unease that had taken root in them, a legitimate awareness of the dangers that lay ahead. Jesus, his face set with determination, reminded them of the blessing bestowed upon those who withstand trials. "Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." His voice was strong, and within each declaration lay an abundance of hope and grace. As they continued through the night, Jesus unveiled the parable of the lost sheep. What do you think? If a man has 100 sheep, and one of them goes astray, does he not leave the 99 and go to the mountains to seek the one that is straying? As he spoke, the tenderness of divine love permeated every syllable. The disciples could feel the heart of the Father yearning for those lost and broken. His words struck like arrows of truth, igniting compassion within the souls of his followers. The depth of the Father's love unveiled the call to reach out, pushing beyond comfort zones to engage those trapped in darkness. "Rejoice with me, for I have found my sheep that was lost," he concluded, the weight of that lost and found echoing in their spirits. It was then that Jesus posed a weighty question, severe in its solemnity. "Who then is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?" And with a child before them, he answered his own query, demonstrating that only those who embrace humility, as a child does, could enter the kingdom. As the moon hung high and the evening wore on, anticipation hung heavy in the air. The disciples felt the stirring of the Spirit, as clarity began to wash over them. Each teaching unraveled the splendor of God's heart, and within them, a new resolve began to form an echo of their calling. They were designed to bear light, bear witness, and embrace the depths of their sacrificial journey. With hearts fueled by divine inspiration, they would discover soon that their mission was intricately woven within the tapestry of God's greater plan. They stood on the precipice of the miraculous. What awaited them next would be a revelation surpassing all understanding, unveiling the magnificence of God's sovereign purposes and the unfolding of redemptive history. As the dawn began to break, the disciples remained huddled together, their hearts still heavy with the weight of Jesus' profound teachings. The chill of the morning air carried an electric anticipation. Each breath drew closer to the beginning of an extraordinary mission that would ripple through eternity. Jesus, sensing their readiness, rose and beckoned them closer. "Blessed are the meek," he began, his voice gentle yet resonant, "for they shall inherit the earth." The words were like balm to the weary souls gathered around him, offering strength and reassurance amid uncertainty. With every syllable, the world's values were overturned. What was deemed weak by man was exalted in the kingdom of heaven. "Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven," he instructed, pointing not only to the ethical life expected of them but also to the glory of the Father that their lives would reflect. Each disciple leaned in, absorbing this charge that intertwined their identity with a divine purpose. As the sun lifted its face, illuminating the path ahead, Jesus spoke of the need to be salt and light in a world shadowed by corruption and despair. The disciples felt the enormity of his calling. It was not merely to follow him but to transform the very fabric of society through their actions and love. "Consider the lilies of the field," he continued, "how they grow, they neither toil nor spin, yet I tell you, even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these." He urged them to trust in the provision of the Father, who watches over even the most delicate of creations. The disciples could sense a shift within. Anxiety was released and faith began to unfurl like a budding flower. As Jesus continued, he addressed them with stories of mercy and grace, illustrating that forgiveness must flow from their hearts like a river. "Forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors," he reminded them, reinforcing a core tenet that would be their greatest weapon against the darkness. "Ask, and it will be given to you, seek, and you will find, knock, and it will be opened to you," he proclaimed with authority, reiterating the promise of unfettered access to the Father. Each disciple felt the weight of hope stir within them, mingling with the certainty that their reliance on God's goodness would sustain them in every trial. "Enter by the narrow gate. For the gate is wide, and the way is easy that leads to destruction," he warned, cautioning them against complacency. As they looked toward the future, a vision of two paths unfolded, both liberating and terrifying. Then, with an piercing gaze, Jesus concluded, "By their fruits you will know them." This statement lingered in the air, filled with the gravity of responsibility. They were to bear witness not just in words but in actions that would reflect their Master's heart. The disciples, struck with newfound clarity about their purpose, felt empowered as they nodded in concurrence. They were to be vessels of God's boundless grace, conduits of light in a world veiled in shadows. As they gathered closer in unity, ready for the march towards Jerusalem and beyond, Jesus turned them to a deeper mystery. "And you will bear witness to the ends of the earth, for it is the Father's will that none should perish." He offered them a glimpse into the divine orchestration at play, each follower woven into the fabric of salvation history, beckoning forth the lost like lost sheep to the shepherd, and in that sacred moment, the atmosphere bristled with anticipation. They stood ready to embark on a journey that would alter the course of humanity forever. Yet still, beyond their understanding lingered the truth that they could not yet grasp. In the culmination of their efforts, a grand revelation awaited, one that would unveil the glorious outpouring of God's redemptive plan through His Son, heralding the dawn of a new covenant. As the sun rose higher, casting rays of hope upon the weary world, Jesus turned to His disciples, their faces aglow with the fire of purpose kindled in their hearts. He led them toward the slopes of a nearby hill, gathering them into a circle, the earth itself seeming to hold its breath as the Son of Man prepared to impart more than mere words. "Beware of false prophets," He warned, His voice steady and unwavering. "They come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravenous wolves." The disciples exchanged glances, sensing the gravity of this warning, for they knew the treacherous paths of their times. "Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' shall enter the kingdom of heaven," He continued, emphasizing the necessity of authentic faith and true obedience over mere outward professions. The reality of their mission cast a shadow of solemn reflection as they contemplated the weight of His words, echoing the truth described in Matthew 7:21. With each proclamation, Jesus revealed the heart of the Father, illuminating the significance of genuine relationship over ritual. "Every good tree bears good fruit," He taught, urging them to inspect the life yielded by their faith. The description of fruitfulness hung in the air like fresh fruit in a bountiful orchard, ripe with promise. "For by their fruits, you will know them." The quiet rustle of leaves bore witness as the wind responded, carrying imprints of His teachings. Expectation swelled as they reflected on the implications of their faith to be lived out through good works, driven by love and guided by the Spirit. "Build your house on the rock," Jesus instructed, illustrating the importance of anchoring their lives in His teachings. "And the rain descended, the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house," He explained further, "and it did not fall, for it was founded on the rock." The disciples felt an urgency within them, stirred by the conviction to hold fast to His words during times of trial. As the morning pressed onward, He paused, inviting them to consider the cost of their discipleship. "If anyone desires to come after me, let him deny himself, and take up his cross, and follow me," He proclaimed. The concept of the cross pierced their hearts as they gazed into the depths of commitment required of those destined to reach the ends of the earth, bringing forth salvation. Jesus spoke then of the joy that awaits those who bear fruit in accordance with God's kingdom. "For whoever desires to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it." The paradox of abandonment and fulfillment, death leading to life, unfurled like a banner of hope across the hills. Amid the ethereal morning glow, the moment of instruction seemed to transcend time, imprinting eternal truths upon their hearts, files of divine wisdom flooding their spirits. Each disciple felt the emerging understanding of their role in God's grand narrative, and yet, there lingered an unsettling mystery within the sacred atmosphere. What awaited them on this journey they had yet to fathom. And then, Jesus, with a gaze that pierced through the veil of time, proclaimed, "Truly, I say to you, there are some standing here who will not taste death until they see the Son of Man coming in His kingdom." A shudder rippled through the group, as minds raced and hearts grasped the weight of such a promise. What glorious revelation would unfold through their obedience? What manifestation of God's power lay just beyond the horizon of their understanding? The greatness of His words echoed in their spirits, a promise of divine destiny entwined with the uncertainty of how they would fulfill it. Thus, as the sun reached its zenith, they remained enwrapped in the mystery of His plan, eager yet hesitant, ready but unaware, for a divine outpouring awaited not just for them, but for all creation. As the sun began its descent, painting the sky in hues of crimson and gold, Jesus beckoned His disciples to draw nearer, their hearts still aglow from His teachings. The atmosphere crackled with a sense of divine anticipation, as they hung on every word, eager to know what more He had to reveal. "Do not fear, little flock," He said gently, His voice soothing yet firm. "For it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom." At this declaration, hope surged within the hearts of the 12, each one feeling the warmth of His promise wrap around them like the embrace of a loving parent, echoing the sentiments of Luke 12-32 that he continued, speaking of treasures not on earth but in heaven. Sell what you have and give alms. Provide yourselves money bags which do not grow old, a treasure in the heavens that does not fail, he instructed, outlining the divine economy of generosity and faith, Luke 12:33. The call to abandon the trappings of material wealth resonated deeply, urging them toward a life of sacrificial love that would ultimately bear eternal fruit. As the shadows lengthened, Jesus shared the parable of the rich fool, illustrating the futility of storing earthly wealth while neglecting one's soul. So is he who lays up treasure for himself, and is not rich toward God, he warned, stirring a sense of urgency within them to prioritize the matters of the Spirit, Luke 12:21. The disciples leaned in closer, rapt with attention, for they understood the implications of his words against the backdrop of their day-to-day lives. Then, turning his gaze toward the heavens, he spoke of vigilance. Let your waist be girded and your lamps burning, he cautioned, alluding to the readiness required for those who await the return of the Master, Luke 12:35. A profound solemnity settled amongst them as they sensed the weight of his exhortation to remain watchful, to live with an expectancy that was anchored in faith. Peter, filled with curious concern, interjected, Lord, do you speak this parable only to us, or to all people? His question lingered in the air, a reflection of the collective anxiety amongst the disciples about their own readiness and the call placed upon them. Jesus responded with a gaze that pierced their hearts, understanding the nature of their concern. Who then is that faithful and wise steward, whom his master will make ruler over his household? He posed, revealing a deeper layer of accountability and service to those called into his fold, Luke 12:42. The challenge of stewardship hung heavy over them, stirring thoughts of loyalty, faithfulness, and the eternal implications of their decisions. Each disciple sensed that the road ahead would demand an unwavering commitment to remain aligned with the will of the Father. As twilight descended upon the hills, Jesus proclaimed, the servant who knew his master's will and did not prepare himself will be beaten with many stripes. His voice, steady yet filled with urgency, echoed the gravity of their calling, reminding them of the consequences of their choices, Luke 12:47. With every teaching, the mystery of his message grew intricate, yet a thread of divine hope ran through. They sought clarity, wrestling with their own grasp of the mission laid before them. The cool night air whispered the secrets of God's kingdom, as they lingered in the light of his presence. What would become of them in the days ahead? Would they remain faithful? And as the stars twinkled above, a profound truth dawned upon them. The journey they were embarking upon was not merely their own, but a pivotal part of God's sovereign design, unfolding in ways they had yet to comprehend. Yet, a tremor of unresolved wonder remained. They felt on the cusp of something magnificent, an impending revelation. What awaited in the coming dawn that would illuminate their path even further? As the stars shimmered with distant light, the hearts of the disciples hung heavy with the weight of Jesus' words, yet were buoyed by an undeniable sense of destiny. Jesus, sensing their tumultuous thoughts, continued, Blessed are those servants whom the Master, when he comes, will find watching. Assuredly, I say to you, that he will gird himself and have them sit down to eat, and will come and serve them. Luke 12:37. A murmur of amazement rippled through the group. They envisioned the unimaginable, their Master, the Son of God, serving them at a feast. What a reversal of roles! The gravity of his love tugged at their souls, beckoning them to a servitude defined by humility rather than dominion. Know this, he pressed on, that if the master of the house had known what hour the thief would come, he would have watched and not allowed his house to be broken into. Therefore, you also be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour you do not expect. Luke 12:39-40. The urgency of his message pierced their hearts like an arrow. Vigilance was not just a call but a divine necessity. Peter's brow furrowed further. He could feel the depth of the mystery that lay before them. Lord, are you speaking this parable to us, or to all? His voice trembled, revealing the weight of responsibility he felt looming over the group. Jesus turned his eyes upon them, a light of understanding illuminating his gaze. Who then is that faithful and wise steward? He inquired again, emphasizing the need for diligence and wisdom among them. Blessed is that servant whom his master will find doing so when he comes. Luke 12 verses 42 to 43. With every parable, the landscape of their hearts transformed, yet the road ahead appeared steep. Jesus continued, "But if that servant says in his heart, 'My master is delaying his coming,' and begins to beat the male and female servants, and to eat and drink and be drunk, the master of that servant will come on a day when he is not looking for him and at an hour when he is not aware." Luke 12 verses 45 to 46. A shudder ran through the group. Dread for the plight of the unfaithful servant resonated, echoing their own fears of failing the calling set before them. Each disciple considered their own heart, weighed their motives, and the pressing call to righteousness became more poignant. As darkness enveloped them, they found unity not only in their fear but in the shared desire to come forth worthy of their calling. A servant is no greater than his master, Jesus reminded them. Know this, to whom much is given, of him much will be required. Luke 12 verse 48. The weight of this revelation settled upon them all, a sacred boon that they would be answerable for what they had received. As Jesus drew them nearer, the solemnity of the moment turned profound, and he revealed, "I came to send fire on the earth, and how I wish it were already kindled." Luke 12 verse 49. His heart ached with the burden of his imminent sacrifice, the transformation of the world resting upon his shoulders. A fire of sanctification meant for the cleansing of all hearts that would choose to embrace him. The disciples stood in awestruck silence, grappling with the enormity of his declaration. The fire was not merely judgment, but a transformative love that would once again set the stage for redemption, yet, a thrilling sense loomed in the air, hinting at the tapestry of God's divine plan intricately woven through their lives. What awaited them was yet to be revealed, a journey veiled in mystery, holding the promise of his eternal purpose, waiting to unfold. Would they trust him in the unfolding? As the dawn's light kissed the hills and the air shimmered with expectancy, the disciples gathered around Jesus, their hearts swelling with awe and uncertainty. Each teaching had unfurled a deeper understanding of their place in the grand tapestry of God's redemptive plan. It was a pivotal moment, hope and trepidation intertwined like the threads of a finely crafted garment. "Behold," Jesus began, his voice steady yet intimate, "the hour is drawing near for the culmination of the Father's will." Waves of understanding washed over the disciples, their minds racing, wondering what profound realities would soon unfold. "For I will be delivered into the hands of sinners," he declared, the weight of destiny heavy upon his shoulders. Matthew felt a stirring within as he contemplated the magnitude of this revelation. How could he be part of such momentous events? The man who had felt like an outcast was now being beckoned into the fold of the sacred narrative. "You must be ready," Jesus instructed, shifting their focus, "for the Son of Man is coming at an hour you do not expect. Stay vigilant, your faith is the anchor in these coming storms." As Jesus spoke, Peter's heart quickened, his fierce devotion blossoming with fiery zeal. "Lord, I will never forsake you," he proclaimed, the words spilling forth in fervent loyalty, yet hidden beneath the surface lay the very fragility of human resolve. "Ah, Simon," Jesus replied, his tone gentle yet piercing. "Before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. The room filled with a solemn silence, each disciple grappling with the invasive doubt that crept like shadows into their hearts. Yet within that space of internal struggle lay a divine promise, the grace that would be poured forth in moments of failure. As the days unfolded into the Last Supper, the atmosphere shimmered with a bittersweet energy, rich with humility and impending sorrow. "This is my body given for you," Jesus spoke, breaking the bread, each piece representing the sacrifice he was about to make. "And this cup is the new covenant in my blood, which is shed for you." In those hallowed moments, Matthew grasped the heart of grace, an invitation extended not just to the 12 but to all humanity. With burdens too heavy to bear, the disciples sat at table, wrestling with fear and confusion. Yet, Jesus lifted their spirits. "Let not your hearts be troubled. I am going to prepare a place for you. In my Father's house are many mansions." The promise of eternal communion brought peace to the tempest surging within them, illuminating their path even as darkness loomed ahead. Hours later, as they withdrew to the Garden of Gethsemane, the weight of the world descended upon Jesus. "My soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even to death," he confessed, the agony of impending separation palpable in the sacred space. He sought solace in prayer, bearing the weight of every sin, every sorrow. "Not my will, but yours be done," he uttered, embodying the essence of surrender, and while he prayed, the disciples, heavy with sleep, succumbed to physical weakness. The stark juxtaposition of their own frailty against his divine commitment echoed through the annals of time. When the betrayer arrived, laden with treachery, the shadows crept closer. "Whom do you seek?" Jesus asked, his voice resolute amidst the chaos. "I am he." The power of his declaration knocked those who sought to seize him to the ground, a momentary glimpse of his sovereign authority amidst the betrayal. Fueled with a fiery spirit, Peter drew his sword, slicing through the darkness that threatened to engulf their light, yet amidst the storm, Jesus remedied the chaos. "Put your sword away," he commanded. "For those who take up the sword will perish by it." In the tumultuous hours that followed, as Peter followed at a distance, the depth of his resolve faltered. 3 times, he denied even knowing Jesus, each denial shaking the very foundation of his heart. With each crow of the rooster, the weight of his betrayal bore down heavily, yet beyond betrayal lay the promise of restoration. After Jesus was crucified, darkness draped the earth, shrouding creation in despair. The veil of the temple was torn from top to bottom, signaling that the barriers separating God and man were shattered forever. As Jesus breathed his last, Matthew witnessed the earth quake and graves opened, a profound declaration of life conquering death. Then came the dawn of the 3rd day, the stone rolled away from the tomb, a radiant angel awaited, announcing, "He is not here, he has risen." Those words echoed, not only celebrating his victory but ushering in an age of unimaginable grace. In the days that followed, as Jesus appeared in the midst of them breathing peace, appearing glorified, he empowered them. "All authority has been given to me. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations," he commanded, bestowing upon them the Great Commission, the call to share the transformative love that had gripped their hearts. The experience of forgiveness flooded over Matthew, joy replacing despair. The outcast was now an ambassador of grace, entrusted with the message of reconciliation. Each disciple emerged transformed, emboldened by the Spirit that would on Pentecost empower them. As they gathered, awash in the vibrant presence of the Holy Spirit, hearts aflame with the fire of faith. "You will be my witnesses," they embraced the mission of sharing Christ's love to a world yearning for truth, their pasts redeemed by the power of testimony and grace. And with an urgency that reverberated through the ages, the stories of miracles, redemption, and the power of God's unyielding love would spread like wildfire. Dear friends, we are witnessing a divine narrative unfolding across generations. You need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's Word. Leave a like now to help spread God's truth through the algorithm, and share this powerful testimony with at least 5 friends who need to hear about the miraculous grace of God. Comment below your reflections and how this story deepens your faith. The time is now. Don't wait even one more second to share. The world craves the light we hold. Let us be the vessels for His glorious kingdom.